one of the principals at DaveJanda.com is our director of IT services. I have known Nick Ruiz for years, and he is dedicated to helping people and helping people through technology. We all hear about how technology can have an adverse effect on people or adverse impact on people. And frankly, Nick has seen that, and that's what gets Nick upset and many of his IT friends upset when folks are using technology to not for the benefit of others, not for the benefit of the world in general. And he's truly dedicated to it. I've seen Nick in action. I've seen what he does and how he does it. He's done a brilliant job with our website, DaveJanda.com. And he also does a show on our platform called the Department of Advanced Research Show. And I brought Nick on because there has been this huge problem with the cancel culture, right? So when we look at some of the things Twitter's doing, right? Some of the things that YawnTube's doing, some of the things that Facebook is doing, the real hardcore IT people are not pleased about that. And in fact, and this goes to our listener base. I mentioned earlier in the show about a number of our listeners having businesses. Well, I wanted to have Nick on to talk about this cancel culture situation. And in particular, some of our listeners, they obviously have been aware for months about businesses and organizations and having their payment systems stopped. I think Dan Brigman about a month ago from Numana provides storable food and storable water. He got targeted on it through his payment systems, and this shows the benefit that technology can have. So our listeners heard about this, and they got together and they said, "We're going to do something about it." You know what? These people that are abusing technology and adversely affecting people, you know what? We're going to create our own mousetrap. And you heard earlier today about WeThePeopleProcessing.com. I asked Nick to look into it as well, and because our listeners developed a platform called WeThePeopleProcessing.com, and to circumvent how some of these entities like PayPal or Stripe might be or some of the banks might be limiting freedom-based companies and their payment methods. So it's my honor to bring forward Nick Ruiz. Nick, welcome back to Operation Freedom.
Hey, Doc. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Nick.
Yep, I'm here.
Nick, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. You were busting in and out. Just not. We got you now. So educate our listeners, Nick, about what's happening in this cancel culture situation, and in particular on this payment processing thing that's adversely affecting many people's businesses.
Okay. Well, the first thing we can start off with is you might as well talk about the 800-pound gorilla on the sofa, which is the usage of financial infrastructure as a mechanism of cancel culture. And we've seen it. I know your audience has seen it. You and I have talked about it quite a bit. Which is a lot of these companies now are mitigating their exposure to anything that's politically controversial, up to and including those with a conservative worldview, and they're backing away. They're completely shutting people off from either the PayPals and the Stripes and the critical infrastructure of being either able to do business on the internet or in person. So what we kind of did is I, along with a number of friends, I can't take complete credit for this, but we had an idea, and we said, well, wouldn't it be nice if folks didn't have to worry about that? And if these companies want to stake their reputation and die on the hill of political correctness, well, that's their prerogative to do, but it's also our prerogative to be able to take a stand and say, nah, you know what, that's not going to work. So what we've done, and I've been thankful to be a part of it, along with my good friend Brandon and a number of other IT professionals that have an insane amount of experience and know-how with this stuff, put together We the People Processing. And it is as far as we know, one of, if not the only, truly freedom-based merchant services processing companies that exist in the wake of cancel culture gone berserk. And we kind of sat down and looked at what do we need to be able to provide an infrastructure, the ability to accept credit cards, debit cards, all the major cards that are out there. What can we build that insulates business owners and proprietors from, maybe saying something on social media or maybe saying something as a business person that is politically unpopular. And they roll out of bed the next morning and their merchant services company says, no, we don't want to touch you with a 30-foot barge pole. So we've, over the last number of months, sat down, slowly but surely, and these are guys with immense experience. These are folks that have done the merchant services and banking financial processing for some conservative PACs, super PACs, political PACs, conservative charities. We all put our heads together and went, well, what if we put all these pieces together? What if what if we're our own bank and we decide who gets approved and that's an end of it? And that was our lofty goal. Some might say it was a little crazy, but here we are a number of months later, and we're proud to kind of bring this to the Operation Freedom audience before literally anyone else. So we're in what would be considered an alpha public test release. So we're giving the Operation Freedom audience a first shot at this. So if you do own a business, especially folks that are in politically loaded environments, firearm sales, tactical equipment sales, survival food storage, give us a call. We can help, and we can help insulate you from that cancel culture and being targeted at your business infrastructure level, because of your worldview.
So folks go to the website, wethepeopleprocessing.com. If they have a business, for example, and again, one of the ways, as you say, they beat you up is they cut your cash flow of whether it's PayPal or Stripe. They just say, we're not honoring, best of luck, thinking that they're going to starve you out. So people go to We the People. If you have a business and you want to avoid this cancel culture stuff, folks can go to wethepeopleprocessing.com. And I think we have it so that they set up it's a password to get in to try to block some of the adverse blowback that comes from the deep state. They put in for a password, I believe, Operation Freedom, correct?
You got it. All lowercase, all one word. And like I said, we're bringing this to the Operation Freedom audience before anybody else. We've had a number of folks that we know, either on an IT level or on a personal level, that we've signed up that are currently using the system. But as far as being able to finally present this and go, look what we built, as you say, a better mousetrap, Operation Freedom audience is going to be the first audience, folks, that are going to be able to really take advantage of this. We do have the site password protected for obvious reasons. So, and there are folks out there that may have a different worldview than what's considered popular. You do know there are adverse effects of that. We use the term nuked from orbit. So we did put a password on that, but we're cordially inviting the Operation Freedom audience. You go to wethepeopleprocessing.com, Operation Freedom, all one word. And they'll be able to help you out. Like I said, we're really proud of what we built, and we're really proud to be sort of on the bleeding edge of the backlash to a lot of this cancel culture, because it was going to happen. And if we can be a part of that, we can kind of be a fly in that ointment, we're more than happy to do so. Because that backlash is coming, and it's just going to take more folks to step up and go, no, you know what, this is not how it's supposed to work. We're going to do something about it. And that's what we're proud of, the fact that we're actually able to do something about it.
Well, and that's the key, Nick. It's not just sitting and complaining and whining. Brandon and you and a bunch of other folks got together and said, look, we don't like what's happening here. We don't like how people's rights are being violated. We don't like how, what's happening on this cancel culture and the fact that they're using tech to do this. And guess what? We're going to use tech to make people whole, to help people.
Yeah, and that's you mentioned it earlier, Doc, prior to that glowing intro, which is, I speak for not only myself, but a lot of what I call the builders, makers, doers, and creators that are out there on the more technical side of tech, not necessarily the front-facing side, the happy, shiny people, join hands, sing Kumbaya types, but the ones that are in the data centers and the ones that are behind the keyboards and the ones that are staring at a black screen with, green and black, green and white writing on it all day, we may not necessarily share that worldview. So, for those that are kind of looking around going, oh, no, the sky is falling, no one's going to help us. We may not be card-carrying conservatives. We may not even identify as Republican or Democrat. We're libertarian, if anything. And it's in our humble opinion that it's everybody's right to prosper if they have a means by which to do so ethically. So that's sort of where we stepped in. And it really was, Doc. It was a bar napkin idea. We all started to kind of go through each other's experiences and go, oh, wow, you did that. Oh, wow, I did this. Wow, we kind of know how this works. And we pieced this thing together. And at the end of it, we were all surprised, Doc. If you remember, I called you up. I was excited. I was bouncing off the walls because of this thing, going, wow, we really did it. So, we got very excited. We're still very excited to be able to bring this to the Operation Freedom audience, and certainly beyond that in a not too distant future. So, again, business owners, you don't want to roll out of bed and you don't want to find out that morning that your merchant services company decided that you're radioactive and they don't want to touch you with a 30-foot barge pole, because there's a process by which you have to go through to replace that. And you've tried to streamline that as much as possible to help folks that are in a DEFCON 1 situation. But more importantly, make the process easy for those that aren't, that want to be proactive about it and say, well, you know what, I'm not going to sit around and wait for the other shoe to drop. I'm going to do something about this. And that's really what we put out there. So, we're excited, and we're kind of on the leading edge of this, and look for other services that people rely on in the not too distant future to have options. Because that's what's happening. The infrastructure that should have always been there to support all worldviews, regardless of how controversial they may be, should have been there already. But now we're learning through necessity, and there's some folks out there that are learning just how high the barrier to entry can be to do so. We're just extremely thankful that we have the talent pool to be able to put this thing together and do it in a way that we're confident about. So, not for nothing, yeah, is it a little bit of thumb in your nose at the system? Yeah, sure it is. Does that make us smile? Absolutely it does. And that's sort of the true spirit of the original pioneers of Silicon Valley. It was, look what we can do. And we're kind of embracing that now.
Nick, many business owners think, well, I'm not really doing anything controversial. They're never going to shut off my PayPal. The Stripe, folks, is a system that goes through every major merchant service, and business uses Stripe for the most part. It's all credit card transactions that goes through it. But many business owners, Nick, go, "Oh, I'm not doing anything controversial. They're not gonna cut me off." Don't be so sure, right?
I wouldn't be so sure of that, because not everybody asks to be famous. You look at a lot of the civil unrest events that have taken place, and where there have been business owners that have defended themselves and their businesses, brick and mortar businesses. All of a sudden, you're on the front page of every paper on the planet. You're being demonized. Or look at what Barber in Michigan, Carl Menke, right, took a stand. Mm-hmm. Oh, all of a sudden, we're not going to help that guy out. He's radioactive. So not everybody asks to be in that situation. Sometimes it kind of happens. And never underestimate the power to go out of their way to try to perform some kind of a witch hunt, to paint people as something that they're not. So the power move is to just get out of that situation where you don't have to worry. Get out of that situation, be a little bit proactive about it, and start to lean into the trend. Because if not now, eventually, because if you look at it, and this is from my other career, as I like to say, as a data analyst and a data scientist, the cancel culture thing isn't going away right now, and not for the foreseeable future. It will over time, but it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And it's one thing to hear it on the radio, and it's another thing to hear it, on TV and go, I don't agree with that. That's completely ridiculous. It's another thing when it affects you personally, and it affects your business. So that's why we encourage people, even if you don't think you're that controversial, you got a social media profile, you have anything that's out there where people can look at you and go, oh, you're a business owner, you're tied to that business, and these are your worldviews. We don't agree with this, so now we're gonna pillory you and your business. Wouldn't it be nice to be in a situation where you can go, bring it on? What else you got? As opposed to having to go, oh no, what if my merchant services company sees this? Oh no, what if my card processor sees this? Oh no, what if my insurance company sees this? So that's kind of what we're trying to create for people, a little bit of a safety net. And it is exactly what you described, Doc. It's the proactive, and it's the net sum beneficial use of technology to better people. That should be what it's all about.
Well, I have to say, Nick, a number of people said, with all this canceling through PayPal and Stripe, there isn't any other entity that can ever be created that can do this. Well, in fact, you guys got your heads together and your experiences of many years in IT, and you guys did that. You were able to pull it off. Many people look at Twitter. Many people look at Facebook. Many people look at YouTube and go, "Oh, they're so big. There's nothing that could ever take its place." Do you believe that's correct, Nick?
MySpace. MySpace. That's my answer to that. Everything is fallible because they're in a moving target dynamic environment. Facebook, when I was in high school many moons ago, in the early 2000s or in the late 90s going into the early 2000s when I was in college, everybody had Facebook. Now Facebook is a completely different animal than it was. They have to understand that the internet technology in society, which is a reflection of each other at this point, is always going to be dynamic. So are these companies replaceable? Social media? Yeah. Business infrastructure? It might be a little bit harder, but the vapid nature of social media suggests that, that's always going to be a changing and a moving target variable. They are replaceable. They are fallible. Less so, again, on the infrastructure and the ISP side and things like that. But as far as the front-facing stuff, yeah, absolutely. So as far as not being able to build a better mousetrap, like I said, our claim to fame now is we get to decide who gets approved. No one's got a system like that. The rates are competitive. We're pretty much in line with everybody else that's out there, but you have the security of knowing this is a politically agnostic environment, okay? And it's a purely libertarian environment. And we were actually sitting and waiting to see if some of these larger companies were going to make that pivot and do that, where we were going to go, oh, never mind. Because this was, as often is the case, a bar napkin idea. We literally all sat down, and this idea was born on the back of a bar napkin. And a number of months later, we have this working system that's all together because we finally realized, no, they're not going to make that pivot. They're going to stay their course, and it's their right to do so. It's our right to do what we did.
Biggest obstacle you guys came in contact with in creating this?
As far as the barrier to entry, just connecting all that back-end technology, all the bits and pieces that go into something as simple as a card transaction, vetting our entire infrastructure, making sure we were presenting and building exactly what we set out to build. So it took quite some time to do that because now we're able to, after that work and after overcoming those barriers to entry, we're able to offer just about everything that all the big guys do. I mean, your point-of-sale terminals, your integration. We even offer compliance because one of the things I wanted to mention real quick, and I know we're coming up on the end of this interview, but one of the ways they like to get you is if they don't like what you have to say from a political worldview, they'll check your website out and go, oh, you don't have a cookies policy. You're not compliant. That's why we're getting rid of you, right? So we offer those services to folks that go, if you do a lot of e-commerce, is your website compliant so you don't give them an excuse? We offer that. Integration, tech support, we offer that. So what we wanted to do is create a smaller, politically agnostic version of the big guys. And that's what we set out to do. And it's what we did. But the barrier to entry was finding those entities to piece into the jigsaw puzzle to create what we did. Because, to kamikaze it together wouldn't do anybody any good. It had to be research, and it was just a lot of time consumption.
Folks, we're speaking with Nick Ruiz. And Nick, question for you. What's the biggest entry for a Twitter-like platform to be created?
The biggest barrier to entry is just going to be scaling. 100%. It's going to be scaling. It's going to be you have to start with something that's stable and current and modern and ready for it. And you have to be prepared to scale that with the growth of your user base. You have to be prepared with backups. There is a lot of tedium that goes on before you get, the pretty box that says, what are your 144 characters? What do you have to say? There is an immense, tremendous amount of infrastructure that has to be set up correctly, set up by people that know what they're doing, that have the experience, because you're talking about a very dynamic environment with a lot of user input. So one little piece is out of place, and your end user experience is just destroyed. So I would say the biggest barrier to entry there is just getting the foundation laid to build something on top of, from the stack side, from the tech stack side. The developers and the programmers out there will know what that means. It just means it's like the foundation of a house. If the foundation is no good, whatever you build on top of it, it doesn't matter.
Folks, we're speaking with Nick Ruiz. You can follow Nick. His company is Evolution Consulting. evolutionconsulting.world, is it, Nick?
evolutionconsulting.world.
And you can also, Nick, he has a show on DaveJanda.com called the Department of Advanced Research Show, which is the best tech show on the planet. I'm biased a bit, but it is. It is chock full of great information. And I suggest you go to WeThePeopleProcessing.com if you're a business owner to take a look at what they can do. Nick and his IT posse and all the gang over at We the People Processing can do to keep you out of harm's way and protect you from the cancel culture thugs that want to strip you of your liberty and your freedom.